Once upon a time, there lived a man named DINA'S. He was very wealthy, and his livestock was plentiful. His folds were filled with sheep, he had vast herds of camels, and the pastures were crowded with his horses. DINA'S had 8 sons. One year, a great drought, a severe winter famine, struck, and the people drove their livestock far away to distant pastures. DINA'S 8 sons went with them. DINA'S and his old wife stayed behind at home, keeping only enough provisions for one winter. After the 8 sons left, no news was heard of them. Months passed, yet they did not return. Eventually, DINA'S food supplies ran out. He and his wife suffered from hunger, finding nothing to eat. They became so weak that they could barely stand. One day, towards evening, the old woman got up from her bed and opened the tundik, the felt covering of the yurt skylight. As the old man lay there, barely able to move, he looked up at the shanirak, the wooden crown of the yurt, and caught sight of a mare's brisket, a tostik, hanging from the wooden crossbeam. DINA'S was overwhelmed with joy. "Wife, great news!" he cried. "The mare's brisket hanging there looks quite fatty. Quick, boil it at once." So, they put the brisket into the cauldron. After boiling and eating the tostik, the old man and woman regained their strength. Soon after, the old woman became pregnant. When her time came, she gave birth to a son. Because the child was conceived after eating the brisket, they named him. Tostik grew up to be an extraordinary child. At 1 month old, he was like a 1-year-old. At 2 months, like a 2-year-old. At 3 months, like a 3-year-old. By the time he was 1 year old, he had become like a 15-year-old youth. By the age of 2, he was strong enough to wrestle and throw down any opponent. He learned to shoot a bow, and his arrows could pierce through 9 layers of iron hose. He spent his time hunting animals and shooting birds to provide for his father and old mother. One day, Tostik shot an arrow at a corncrake, a small bird, sitting in the middle of the village. The arrow tore off the bird's wing. Instead of falling, the corncrake flooded its remaining wing and began to run away. Tostik chased after it, trying to catch it. During the chase, the bird hopped over an old woman's ormek, a traditional weaving loom. Tostik, following close behind, also jumped over the loom. As he did, one of his toes caught the ormek, and several of the weaving threads snapped. The old woman, who was busy weaving, cried out, "Oh, you cursed boy! You have ruined my loom. Instead of chasing birds and shooting sparrows along the ravines from dawn till dusk, why don't you go and find your 8 brothers who are wandering out there in the world?" She cursed and scolded him. Tostik could not find a word to talk back. He felt deeply insulted by her words. The phrase "your 8 wandering brothers" struck him particularly hard. Tostik had never heard that he had brothers before, as his parents had kept it a secret from him. He ran straight back home. Seeing his angry face, his mother asked, "What happened to you? Who have you been quarreling with?" Tostik repeated everything the old woman had said to his mother. "Where are my brothers? Why aren't they coming back? I will find them and bring them home." Tostik declared. His mother replied, "That senile old woman is lying. You never had any brothers. Do not believe a word she says." Thus, she managed to convince Tostik for a while. But one day, while playing Asik, knucklebone game, Tostik struck the old woman's only son with his fist, and the boy fell unconscious. The old woman cursed and scolded Tostik even more bitterly than before. "May your life be cut short, Tostik. Instead of showing your strength against my only son, why don't you go find the bleached bones of your 8 brothers who died wandering in the wilderness?" The woman's words weighed heavily on Tostik's mind. He went to his mother and demanded to know about his brothers. This time, His mother finally told him the truth. "It is true that you have 8 brothers," his mother said. "They left during the year of the Jat and never returned. We do not know where they are." Tostig began his preparations to find his brothers. He hunted animals and birds, drying and piling up a large supply of meat for his elderly parents, and then he set out on his journey. He tied his bow to his waist, took an iron staff in his hand, and put on his boots. He traveled for months, and then for years, wandering through many lands and territories. His bow was his only companion and his only source of food. He lived by shooting whatever game he encountered along the way. By the time his iron boots were worn down to the size of a coin and his iron staff had thinned to the size of a needle, a distant ridge appeared through the shimmering heat haze. Exhausted and barely alive, he reached the ridge, only to see a vast, dark mass of horses, with a settlement visible beyond them. Reaching the horses, he found a black kosh, a temporary felt hut, pitched among them. Inside the hut, he found a tripod over a fire and a hanging copper pot. The pot was filled with cooked meat. Tostig ate his fill and headed toward the settlement. The people there were holding a great feast, as "I will look for my brothers at this feast," Tostig thought, and began walking among the many yurts pitched for the occasion. No one paid any attention to Tostig, who was thin, haggard, and dressed in tattered rags. Who would take notice of a common wanderer on foot? As he walked, he heard the food server shouting, "Bring this to Ernazar's 8. Bring this to Ernazar's 8. Hoping to see Ernazar's 8, he tried to enter the yurt, but the servers shoved him back and pushed him away. "You beggar," they cried. "Have you still not had enough meat? Who are you looking for?" they asked. "I seek the 8 sons of Ernazar," Tostig replied. "I am looking for my 8 lost brothers." There, the brothers recognized Tostig, and they embraced with tears of joy. Together, the 9 of them tried to drive the vast herd of horses, but the animals grew stubborn and kept returning to their original spot. Finally, Tostig came up with a plan. He caught the lead mare, tied her legs, and twisted her hock with a rope. The mare let out a piercing shriek, and hearing her cry, the entire herd gathered around. Tostig then led the mare, and the thousands of horses followed them faithfully all the way back to their homeland. Ernazar, overjoyed by his son's return, held a massive feast with mountains of meat and lakes of kumis. Afterward, he sought 9 brides from a single family for his sons. He finally found a household with 9 daughters. While 8 sisters were treated as one group, the youngest, Kenshiki, was special. Ernazar betrothed her to Tostig. On their way back, they encountered Bektri, a Piri's daughter who fell in love with Tostig and plotted to steal him from Kenshiki. Later, due to Ernazar's stubbornness in camping at a forbidden well, Sorkutik, he fell into the trap of a Jalmori's Kempia, an evil witch. To save his own life, Ernazar promised the witch's youngest son, Tostig. He left Tostig's sharpening stone, Eju, behind as a lure. Kenshiki, sensing the danger, gave Tostig the magic horse Shalkurik and the Exermali armor. As Tostig went to retrieve his tool, the witch chased him. The earth split open, and Tostig, along with his horse, fell into the underworld. In the underworld, Tostig befriended Bapi Khan, the king of snakes. To help Bapi Khan, Tostig set out to win the daughter of Temir Khan. Along the way, he gathered 6 extraordinary companions. Sheba, the skillful, could swap a magpie's tail without the bird noticing. A Jalayak, Swiftfoot, could outrun the wind, even with weights on his legs. A Saklak, Sharpear, could hear everything across the world. A Torsiga, Mountain Crusher, could move mountains. A Koltorza, Lake Swallower, could drink entire lakes in one gulp. A Chiragi, Sharp-eyed could see everything, no matter how far. With their help, Tostig won every challenge set by Temir Khan, racing, wrestling, and even surviving a red-hot iron palace, and eventually returned to the surface world with the help of the Samurik, Simma, bird after saving her chicks from a dragon. Upon returning to the surface, Tostig was captured by Shorinquak, the son of the witch, and thrown into a dungeon. With the help of the Samurik's feather and his horse Shalkurik, he escaped. The Samurik warned him, "Shorinquak cannot be killed normally. His soul is hidden elsewhere." Tostig discovered the secret. Shorinquak's soul resided in 9 chicks inside a golden chest, which was inside a mountain goat. Tostig tracked down the goats, killed the magic one, and found the chest. He crushed the chicks one by one. As he did, Shorinquak grew weaker. Finally, Tostig destroyed the last chick, ending the villain's life and the curse of Bectri. Back in his homeland, many years had passed. Only Kensiki still believed Tostig was alive. One morning, her sacred camel, the Kuba Injin, went missing to give birth in a valley. As Kensiki found her, she saw an old man on a white horse approaching in the distance. At that moment, the silk scarf at her waist began to unravel on its own, a sign that her long-lost husband, a Tostig, had finally returned.